Greetings, my good bitches. The name's Francis. QueenCokeFrancis. I'm an editor, Twitch streamer, drag artist, and I'm here because, holy mother of God, it's been a while since I've made a video. Mainly because, as you just heard, I am officially another Twitch bitch, and I can't believe I didn't start doing this sooner. Anyway, Sundays are fun days over here in Studio Francis, the only studio with more coke than 54. So, if you'd like to join me, and sometimes my beautiful co-producer, as we play RPGs and raise money for the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund. The link to my Twitch is in my bio and the description box, and I will be posting regular updates in the community tab. But you didn't come here to hear my shameless self-promotion. A few months ago, I made a video where I watched all the Fox News comedy specials. It still feels so wrong saying that sentence, so that you all didn't have to. Rob Schneider and Roseanne Barr, two comedians who have made themselves at home at a network that seemed to be the antithesis of comedy, or humor, or happiness itself. Rob Schneider's special was, okay, picture a comedy special for Fox News and what that would look like. That's exactly what it was like. Absolutely no surprises, not nearly offensive enough for the I'm not offended crowd who explode at the mere idea of a joke at the expense of Donald J. Trump. I think Trump himself has had funnier one-liners than this poor bastard who was too afraid to make daddy upset. But I haven't been able to stop thinking about Roseanne's special. Not because it was better than expected or anything. Oh, no. It was for sure one of the worst stand-up specials I've ever seen in my life. Astoundingly bad. Depressingly bad. And it made my job as a professional bitch much more difficult because it was so depressing that I genuinely had a hard time coming up with roasts and jokes about it. And that's because as a professional bitch, I used to really respect Roseanne Barr.
I hate hope.
Arguably one of the queens of professional bitches out there. She walked so that the rest of us could run.
So do I seem bitchy to you at all? This was an awful morning. Like I get up this morning, I put my maxi pad on, adhesive side up. Yeah, makes you cranky, don't it?
And I talked about it a bit at the end of that video, but I wanted to take a deeper dive into her life and career and her political views and feminist activism. And as we've been watching over the past several years, her massive downfall and how exactly we got here. Because it hasn't just been a fall from grace, it's been a straight up, face down, ass up, eat shit fall. And as unfortunate as that is, that doesn't mean she's safe from criticism from drag queens on the internet. But before we get into it, if you are a fan of watching a very tired drag queen talk about nerd shit forever, I ask that you please do a stand-up show and get heckled by some drunk audience member. But instead of clapping back at them, go ahead and just unzip your pants and dick slap those like and subscribe buttons as hard as you can. So I was trying to figure out how exactly I was going to structure this, what my sources would be, etc. I knew I couldn't just skim information off of her Wikipedia page. That's how the script to Bohemian Rhapsody was written, and I refused to go down that path. But like I said, I wanted to get to the very root of where Roseanne came from and how we got here now. So, I read her autobiography, Roseanne, My Life as a Woman. Yes, as you can see, I bought her book and I read it in its entirety.
There was learning, there was reading. Do you remember what reading was?
I am devastated to inform you all that this Portlandia character that you see Fred Armisen portraying here is, without exaggeration, exactly who I was at age 18.
Well, look what the government dragged in.
Her book follows her life and career up until 1989 when it was published. Basically, the Cliff Notes version is how she grew up in a poor Jewish family in a Mormon neighborhood in Utah and all the trials and tribulations associated with that. It's actually pretty fascinating. She talks about the time she was institutionalized at a mental hospital hospital after experiencing a traumatic brain injury, then moves into when she ran away from home at a very young age and started a family with some hippie from Colorado. From there, she goes into the struggles of being a mother and a wife, her growing and changing relationship with the feminist movement, and ultimately her entrance into comedy. Turns out she was just really good at roasting all the sexist clientele at her waitressing job, and in turn they encouraged her to go into comedy. God, what I wouldn't give to have a job like that. Oh, wait. And I gotta say, it's quite profound and exceptionally well written. But not only that, it also contradicts every goddamn part of that stand-up special. Every part. Sister, what happened? I thought this book would help better explain what happened, but if anything, it just made me even more confused. Then again, a lot can change between 1989 and 2024, so we're gonna break this bad boy down like Shelley Duvall's spirit on the set of The Shining and compare it to some choice quotes in her book, because this mental transformation is as fascinating as it is depressing. Strap in! You can tell that people in the sane world want everything dead. They support war over peace every time. They go to their churches and synagogues and mosques and pray to their dead totemic gods to help them make it through the night a few more years, till they can rest at last when they're at peace, when they are in the good place, heaven, and finally, good and dead. I want to live. I choose life. I don't want to hate nobody. I want to be nuts.
All these gorgeous little tiny baby deer in my yard eating the grass around my pool. It's so fantastic because I can pull out my AR-15 and blow them just to smithereens legally. Open carry, bitches. Hell yeah.
And we're on our way. Well, this joke is anything but sane, and anything but a joke. This is actually a point she makes frequently in her book, and now she's performing for an audience who upholds everything that supposedly is the death of creativity and life. And what better way to kick it off than with a 2A circle jerk? I know I have a job to do while I am on this planet in this incarnation, to attempt to break every social norm, turn it back on itself, and see that it is laughed at. This is the most fun thing there is on Earth. I chuckle with glee if I know I have offended someone, because the people I intend to insult offend me horribly. I cannot bear the imagination of people my age at this point.
Where are my peeps that are going to get really offended if I do not offend everybody? Where are my peeps at?
So this is a viewpoint that's remained the same, and I admire her for it. I admire anyone for it because I'm the same way. It's really funny when people get so incredibly upset over jokes that are meant to be funny, not to hurt your feelings, but to be funny, to make you laugh and have no effect on them whatsoever. What's changed here is the intent. Conservatism seeks to uphold social norms, not break them. The purpose of satire is to take conservative institutions down a peg.
Check out my fucking Hitler shit. That's Hitler. It's like a Jewish woman, and she's dressed up like Hitler, and you know, he's in drag, Hitler, and he's baking cookies, and he's really proud of them, but also he's looking off into the horizon because he has a dream.
But the most frustrating thing about this is that she doesn't actually say anything that offensive the entire time, or funny. Double whammy. They do not expect to get married and be taken care of forever. They see a harsher woman's world than I ever did, and I think they will be the smartest group of women who've ever lived, if they can make it through the drugs, the pregnancies, and the age they live in. And if they do, then they can turn 30 and realize that nothing is any different for them than for any women at any time in history before them. Good luck to them.
None of my daughters are here because they don't agree with me politically. They're libtards, so they didn't show up.
So this is the first of many jokes about how stupid today's women are, and specifically how stupid her daughters are. Now, obviously, you're allowed to joke about your kids. If you grew a person inside of you and then violently ejected them out of your body and lived, you can make fun of them as much as you want. But when Roseanne says that they don't agree with her politically, they're literally just upholding the same political views that she raised them with. Not their fault that you changed, sis. You even warned against the dangers of conservative women in this passage about one of your abusive ex-bosses. Drinking was one of his great hobbies, and browbeating his wife and all of the women who worked for him was the second. And like all men who are like that, he had a daughter whom he adored and showered lavish praise and attention on. These are the women who, when they grow up, become like Phyllis Schlafly, the deadliest enemies of other women. Nobody hates women more than other women, I guess. Same way how nobody hates Final Fantasy more than Final Fantasy fans. When everything starts to appear to you as if it has been planned that way, you go nuts. Nuts is a disease of women. Nuts is the truth. Nuts is a revolution. Quoting now from the Book of Revolutions 1 by R. Barr, "Know ye the truth, and the truth shall make you nuts."
Just tell the truth, Roseanne. You always got to tell the truth, right? Tell the truth will set you free. You're right, Father. I'm just going to tell the truth. I thought she's white.
Yes, good bitches, the comedy and brilliance from a deep thinker and a trailblazer for women in comedy has officially been reduced to her new trademark line,
I thought the bitch was white!
basically her Bart Simpson
I didn't do it.
catchphrase. You're definitely nuts if you think this line won't get stale.
Say the line, Bart.
I thought the bitch was white!
Not that it was good to begin with, but hey, gotta work with what you got. Conservatives are really smart people, and like P.T. Barnum, have gotten rich by never overestimating the intelligence of the American people. I think conservatives are basically assholes. If you watch them closely for a minute or two, you will be able to recognize that they are the same kids in elementary school who ate their boogers, and I bet most of them still do too.
I'd rather die than do effing promos, not the ones that Fox is asking me to do. And ABC is on the phone, they want to talk to you. I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to talk to no Hillary donors. What community? The baby blood drinking Democrat community, or
So aside from the absurdity of a supposedly proud Jewish woman spreading anti-Semitic dog whistles, clearly she forgot that about a decade ago, Fox News slammed her for speaking in solidarity with the Occupy Wall Street protesters, amongst other things. They only clutched their pearls when she said, quote, "If corporations are people, then Goldman Sachs needs to be executed for premeditated mass murder, terrorism, mayhem, and grand larceny." She also previously stated that she believes in a maximum wage of $100 million, so who knows what happened to the other $800 million that she supposedly made at one point, but hey, based statement at the very least.
No more bitches with stitches. We get to open our mouths.
that's right, we do, but shut up, bitch. But anyway,
God damn it, that's the Roseanne I know and love. Shit. The women's movement's still here, it never died. The new age is the old age, come full circle, the age of enlightenment, and once again we are worshipping the creatress of the heavens. It happened, and that's why I don't hate men anymore. This, I believe, is the only way to not hate men anymore, is to not hate women, and vice versa.
what's wrong with them? These young pink pussy hat wearers, they want to be lied to. They want to be lied to because they are so used to it. You can't wake them up because you can't wake up people that are pretending to be asleep.
So a big part of this book is about Roseanne's ever-growing and changing relationship with feminism, which was shaped by her life experiences and her peers and working at a feminist bookstore. And a big change that she had witnessed was how the discourse was starting to become more and more populist, basically to make it more palatable for everyone. It was the beginning of the 1980s, and the voices from the left were being silenced by voices from the right. The voice of women began to turn, as they always have, towards a populist point of view, which again was a voice from the right. I would sit all day at my desk, taking calls, explaining to women that the information and help they were looking for was no longer available. It had all died due to budget cuts or misappropriations of funding. In other words, Reaganomics. She was highly critical of the fact that the movement rarely addressed the concerns of her working class demographic. This has absolutely remained relevant, where liberals will put a focus on identity politics rather than intersectionality. They'll put literal cops like Kamala Harris up on a pedestal while completely ignoring the voices of the working class. We did not agree anymore with party politics within the women's movement. I had found my voice, no longer wishing to speak in academic language or even in a feminist language, because it all seemed dead to me. I began to speak as a working class woman who is a mother, a woman who no longer believed in change, progress, growth, or hope. This was the language that all the women on the street spoke. And the whole pussy hat thing she brought up is the epitome of that kind of white feminism. By all means, make fun of that that shit all day. Please, I ask that you do. The problem is how this joke followed up an entire rant about how COVID vaccines were comparable to the Tuskegee experiments. Moving on.
Asking questions have nothing to do with the real world. What is my gender, Mom? What is my gender? Your gender is get a job. That's your gender. What is a woman? They don't know that.
Of course, in reality, feminism is not really dead at all. The basics are still there. Yet I wonder how anyone can see them anymore when they are espoused by women, handpicked, it seems, to be acceptable to the establishment, rather than encourage all women to see what it all really means and how to be able to name it. For without a name or names, nothing is clear and nothing exists.
A woman is me. A woman is someone who cleans up everybody else's shit. That's what a woman is. A woman is somebody whose boobs hang down to her knees with a prolapsed uterus from giving birth to 5 ungrateful little privileged bastards that have never had to work for anything in their whole damn lives.
So, listen, I've never given birth, but she has 5 times. So, I'm gonna let her speak on the subject. It is heaving and throwing itself violently against my organs and my skin and my nerves. It is screaming to get out, and I'm afraid it is a monster, a terrible, vicious thing that will destroy me with its strength. I am screaming for it to get out of me as if I am conducting an exorcism in my brain. I can see my brain crumbling like blue cheese, pieces falling out and falling off, and I hate the thing inside me that is killing me, and I hate my mother because she did not warn me, and I hate my husband and all men who make women pregnant. I know it'll trigger the righties to say this word, but hey, all you birth havers out there, you guys are the real heroes. I genuinely can't wrap my mind around how y'all do it and how the entire human race depends on people doing it, and the fact that people actually go through it is incredible and worthy of recognition, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for people who do it. This is one of the ways that Roseanne defines her life as a woman in the book, and she is 100% valid. Trans women are also 100% valid when they define what it means to be a woman, because there isn't one singular definition of what a woman is, Matt Walsh, the same way there isn't a singular definition of what a man is or a non-binary person. People are complex and have different histories and life experiences. If this is part of your identity as a woman, that's fine. Nobody can or will or wants to take that away from you. Trans women existing won't take that away from you either. Anyway, the left or radical view that I grew up with in the 60s is gone. Gone from the everyday news and views, but still very strong with women's groups. Since women are the new left, I can understand why everyone says the left is dead. Our society makes the women who aren't helpers, supporters, and subordinates invisible. Does anyone see them?
And I just want to say to all those girls that are all so damn upset about them overturning the Roe v. Wade thing, don't get so damn upset about it. You are never going to get pregnant. You got the vax. You're never going to have a baby. Chill out.
Do you see the women you wrote about, Miss Thing? I can't tell if this is actual bitterness over having kids or if it's just really bad pandering to an audience that hates everything you used to stand for. We began to tell the truth to us being that feminism had gone populist, had been manipulated and perverted to mean becoming part of a world where women's voices are absent because they sounded just like men's voices.
Women, keep your penis in your pants. There's no excuse for this kind of behavior. These Me Too whores, they are so on my last nerve. If you are going to go to a Disney producer's room at 3 a.m., are you kidding me? Then you're not going to turn around and cry about it and try to get some money out of it.
I was part of the normal world where everything bad that has ever happened to you is blamed on you because you asked for it, or that's what you get when you rock the boat, go out looking for trouble, mouth off, think you know everything, disrespect the law, your elders, the rules, the kind of world where you're always told that you might actually desire being hurt, humiliated, beaten, raped, left.
Remember when you were young and you got molested molested, it's your fault. Remember that.
Again, I know these are supposed to be jokes. Comedians rarely mean what they say on stage. As a former comedian myself, I understand that. It's just that, ain't nobody laughing. I would say that I wanted to be a writer and I wanted to be a poet, and these other women would look at me like there was something wrong with me for wanting that, for saying that, for thinking about anything besides kids and dinner and husbands. I felt there was something terribly wrong with me too. I wasn't a good mother because good mothers were happy mothers and good wives were happy wives, and to say anything that was irrelevant to these things was quite heretical.
They're progressive parents, though, and I can't stand that. I'm like, you gotta hit these bitches. If you want them to do right, you gotta hit them. You gotta hit your kids. I have to say that. We need to hit them more.
Did that work for you? Even though there's an entire episode of your show about how hitting your kids is wrong? If you really hated progressive parenting, you would have stayed home to pretend to be a happy mother and wife, right? Bill told me that I was the most interesting chick he had ever met, and that he was totally blown away at how intelligent I was, since most of the other chicks he had met were stupid, shallow, and petty. What a compliment to have been raised against my own subgroup, to be the token once again. It was so comfortable to me then, to be the example, the exception, that I never even thought to question the insulting nature of such a statement.
There's no men left in our country, have you noticed that? All the men, they want to be women, or else they're just complete pussies and losers. There's no men with any kind of spine left. They've all been beaten down. What happened to the men?
It feels like combat against the literary bombardment that came almost without exception from male authors. How we women stink, our fat removes our sexuality, how we are pushy and voracious and intrinsically evil and lost without souls, and conniving and castrating and overpowering, in need of control and begging for degradation.
Okay, well, let's take this little test. You think you're a man, huh? You think you're strong, yeah?
And what excited me, finally, was the thought of a woman, any woman, standing up and saying no, a huge cosmic no. And the first time I went on stage, I felt myself say it, and I felt chilled and free and redeemed.
I defy you to go home and tell your wife or girlfriend that she needs to sit down and shut her yap. Tell her you need to sit down and shut up.
I was a feminist then, a woman who takes herself seriously. A movement of women that was about equal rights with men, about peace and non-violence, but mostly about dignity and self-respect, and tossing aside hurtful traditions that are about gender and roles.
Close your mouth and make me a sandwich. Things would be a lot better. Am I right?
Girl, I can't imagine why your daughters wouldn't want to come to your shows. Maybe it's because they're libtards. Maybe it's because they'd rather stay home and make their husband sandwiches than watch their mom do whatever this is.
Tonight, go home, tell those you love to fuck off right now.
And with that banger of a closing line, let's wrap up this section with selections from a letter to her kids at the end of her book. I have loved you all your lives. I gave birth to you all in great pain. I raised you all in great pain as well, knowing no other function in my life but being a caretaker, being a mother. I brought you forth into this world and gave you nothing. I had been given nothing myself and longed always for something. I wanted you to see me strong, so I hid my weakness. I wanted you to see me happy, so I hid my misery. In the end, I believe all you saw me do was hide. One day I read a quote: "If a woman told the truth about her life, the world would split open." I found a stage where I began to tell the truth about my life because I couldn't tell the truth off the stage. And all the truth boils down to is this: I am your mother, and I love you all so much. Now is my time to be happy. Won't you celebrate with me? This letter is hauntingly beautiful. This sounds like the truth. This sounds like it came from the heart. But you also said you found a stage to tell the truth about your life. So which is it, Roseanne? This heartfelt letter to your kids, or this ambient-induced word salad where you shit talk your kids to an audience that doesn't understand satire? So when I was reading this book and writing the script, I tried to walk the very fine line between understanding and validating where Roseanne is coming from while also pointing out the flaws. It's a fragile, delicate balance, and I'm trying my best to be as nuanced with this as possible because I really don't want to come off as an apologist here. she deserves every bit of criticism she's received. But I also believe in the importance of empathy. I think it's extremely necessary to understand where people are coming from in order to address the larger issues. I don't think Roseanne is an evil person. I don't wish any ill or harm on her. She's just really, really fucked up, both back then and even more now. It's really hard to wrap my head around the fact that this is the same person. Given the vast amount of spelling and grammatical errors throughout, I'm 99.99% sure that she wrote this herself and it was not ghostwritten. So it's coming from the heart, but there's also going to be an inherent bias to it. Hell, she didn't even outright bring up that she had a child when she was 17 that she had to give up for adoption. She like vaguely hinted at it at a few areas, but the only reason I knew that is because I already had that information beforehand. Just look at the Straight Outta Compton movie. I'm a huge NWA fan. I thought it was a really well done movie. It's also extremely biased. Dr. Dre was an executive producer, so of course he's not going to bring up the time that he almost beat a woman to death. Remember, that old chestnut? So even though Roseanne was able to admit a lot of her weaknesses and faults in this book, and the fact that a lot of them stem from extreme mental illness and a traumatic brain injury, of course she's not gonna bring up, oh, I don't know, the numerous allegations about what a nightmare she was to work with on the set of her titular show. And this book came out in 1989. Her career was barely just getting started. Before the show aired for 10 years, before her highly publicized marriage and subsequent divorce with Tom Arnold, before her sister filed a $70 million lawsuit against her for breach of contract, before she ran for president, and before all of the Twitter drama that we already know about. And most importantly, before she was worth nearly $1 billion at one point. So fast forward to 2018. A revival of Roseanne has officially been greenlit by ABC. Everyone's nostalgia boner has been risen once again, and so has Roseanne's career, until she posted the tweet heard round the world, where she joked that an advisor to former President Obama looked like, quote, the Muslim Brotherhood and the Planet of the Apes had a baby. She issued an apology pretty soon after, but she just kept making the situation worse and worse, with everything from the Ambien defense to the now infamous
I thought the bitch was white!
Sanofi, the manufacturer of Ambien, savagely responded by posting, quote, racism is not a known side effect of any Sanofi medication. It's especially ironic next to this passage in her book. I never did do drugs. I was too afraid. I knew I was already so far and out away from reality that I didn't want to push it even farther. The problem with drugs, as I have always believed, is that if you take them, you will believe that you are on them, and that is a great excuse to erase your own responsibility, culpability, ability, and life. Well, she's certainly not wrong about that last sentence. Within 24 hours, ABC pulled the plug on the Roseanne revival and was replaced with a show called The Conners, which retained the same cast minus Roseanne. As far as the term cancel culture goes, this incident actually fit the description of being canceled. But Jesus Christ on a tiny bike, it has all gone downhill from there. Sure, she had flip-flopped over and over again over her support for Donald Trump, so the warning signs were there, but this was the moment she became radicalized. This is her villain origin story. And if there's one thing I've learned in the past several years, it's that people will always go where the love is, regardless of who's giving that love. Like Gina Carano's arrival at the Daily Wire's island of problematic misfit toys, like J.K. Rowling's turfy flings with every divorced dad on Twitter, Roseanne has found a new group of friends at Fox News. Not that it was the right thing for her to do, obviously, but at the same time, can you really blame her? She explained the whole situation with Sean Hannity as her witness, and most recently made an appearance at Turning Point USA's America Fest, which sounds like a parody name you'd see in a cringy center-left SNL sketch. Aside from this stand-up special and a few bizarre podcast appearances, that's pretty much all she's done for the past 6 years. Oh, and apparently this upcoming animated series from the Daily Wire, because apparently the Daily Wire makes adult animated series now too. Who else is in this series? Let's see. Oh god. Oh, not you two. Oh god, not Megyn Kelly voice acting. Shit. Anyway, we've watched Roseanne's career shrink faster than Charlie Kirk's face-to-head ratio. And as you can imagine, she's probably running out of money pretty fast. And to be honest, I don't think this fate is completely undeserved. Not even from a political standpoint. Take all the politics out of her current circumstances and that stand-up set. The fact of the matter is that this is still just a really bad set. Like, obvious Q pandering aside from a few funny-ish one-liners that I had already heard before throughout, the whole routine was mostly devoid of jokes and was just non-coherent rambling. When you're an artist, you constantly have to be evolving and reinventing yourself. If you can't do that, fine, but that means you're probably gonna have to retire. Or at least not continue your craft for the sake of paying your bills. Cancel This wasn't Roseanne's triumphant return to stand-up comedy. It was an act of desperation. Even if it meant abandoning all her previous morals and principles, she readily accepted money from an institution that had previously maligned her for her progressive views.
You went crazy on Fox News.
I have several times.
On your blog, especially. Your award-winning blog. What was the award it won?
I can't remember.
It was the most incoherent blog ever.
Is that right? Really? It won most incoherent blog?
Yeah.
That's great.
As we saw in the book, Roseanne Barr was once a profound thinker and an exceptionally good writer. There was another passage in the book that stood out to me that I didn't bring up earlier because it didn't really relate to the stand-up special, but it was about her experience witnessing the AIDS crisis in New Orleans. I felt a city under siege, old and young men who walked the darkness also, who defied the cold and terrifying feeling of death that was everywhere, with some sort of strength and respect for life and art that contained and eclipsed the new Black Plague which had taken friends and lovers and enemies into the bountiful darkness and released them, where now they are stories told and cared for by healthy men whose eyes are shaded with a different kind of knowledge than mine. How is this the same goddamn person? I think it's also important to know, especially with what's going on now, that she used to be one of the few people who openly denounced Israel's occupation of Gaza and called it what it is, an ethnic cleansing. Quote, "I say it's the entire world's fault, not just Israel's and not just the Jews, for allowing the terrible crimes against humanity." This was all the way back in 2009.
He was overlooking the Dome of the Rock and the mountain, the whole thing. The whole fucking thing's about a piece of real estate that big. That's why there's hundreds of wars for millions of years. I say, how come we can't share that with Arabs?
Oh, shit.
And he said, well, that's what we're supposed to do after the Messiah comes. I go, he's not going to come till we do it, don't you think?
But a few years after that, she started to get, I don't know, playfully Islamophobic on Twitter. She went from accusing Israel of Nazism to accusing BDS supporters of Nazism. The spiciest tweets, in my opinion, have to be, quote, "Jew hater Hillary Clinton's handler Human Weeder is a filthy Nazi whore. And Hillary will be the absolute death of Israel. She will sell #nukes to Hamas next if price is right." Dangerously Islamophobic. It was meant to be a joke, but it's not playful, obviously. Whatever. Isn't it interesting that somehow none of this got her canceled in the years leading up to the Great Cancellation? None of it. But I'm sure it earned her plenty of brownie points when she was demoted to being a right-wing court jester. The reason Roseanne was such a hit show is because she was playing a character that came from the heart, and one that heavily resonated with the average working-class American mom. One who wasn't conventionally thin or attractive, but she was real, she was honest, she was crude. We loved her for it. Barbara Ehrenreich wrote in a review of this book, quote, "She represents the hopeless underclass of the female sex. Polyester-clad, overweight occupants of the slow track, fast food waitresses, factory workers, housewives, members of the invisible pink-collar army, the despised, the jilted, the underpaid. Yeah, she's crude, but so are the realities of pain and exploitation she seeks to remind us of." That demographic topic is a lot harder to relate to when you're worth, and I cannot possibly stress this to you enough, Lord Baby Jesus in heaven, almost $1 billion. The rags to riches to removal from regular society into Privilegeville pipeline is something we're seeing with a lot of comedians lately. Tom Segura is probably the most recent and relevant case because he too is one of the funniest people on the planet and was too a down-to-earth, relatable American fat guy and father. Obviously there's nothing wrong with making money from your craft. Tom and Roseanne made a shitload of money because of their relatability, but that aspect of their comedy has been gone for a long time, especially in Roseanne's case. And even though she went on to be a mentally unstable billionaire conservative mouthpiece, we cannot deny the fact that Roseanne used to be a working class fat Jewish mother who kicked down doors for a lot of minority voices in comedy. When she dies, I want to remember her as the lady who screamed the national anthem, grabbed her crotch and spit on the ground, and made former President George H.W. Bush very upset. Just as Michael Jackson will have always been a game changer and an important part of the music industry, even though he was an absolutely monstrous groomer who ruined people's lives and was a cutthroat capitalist freak. Or how Johnny Rotten was, never mind. He was never good or important. Just to be clear, Sex Pistols are the One Direction of punk, right? Thanks for letting me rant about this. It's been on my mind since December, and I've been cooking with this one for a while, boy. Anyway, how are you all doing? God, I love this wig. You can tell I've been watching a lot of Fallout lately, huh? I've had a few people ask if I'm making a video about that. I'm not sure yet, because I don't really have any hot takes on it yet, other than, would. Honestly, I could probably do an entire video just on the ghoul / Cooper Howard. More like Walton Goggins, am I right? There's only one thing in this world that I love more than a homeless radioactive cowboy who's missing a nose, and that is the winning comment from the last video. Montyr2083 says, "Never have I identified with you more than when you talked about crying and watching Oran, the queer representation we crave. The definitive queer struggle. That and watching neckbeards on Twitter lose their minds over the fact that the creator of Fallout is gay. Maybe I should do a video on that after all. You too can be featured in the next video. Leave a comment below and I will pick my favorite one and give you a shout out next time and pin your comment to the top of the comment section. If you would like to see me simp for my favorite game characters and get visibly frustrated in real time, please follow me on Twitch. I stream most Sundays Pacific Standard Time, and we're still raising money for the PCRF, who needs money way more than I do. If you would like to see even more of my clown mug elsewhere, please consider following me on Instagram or TikTok as well. My handle for all of the above is at QueenCokeFrancis. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't done this already, please do a stand-up show and get heckled by some drunk audience member. But instead of clapping back at them, just go ahead and unzip your pants and dick slap those like and subscribe buttons as hard as you can. And, of course, as always, until next time.